Sure it'll fit.
Put it on, baby. Put on that helmet. Show's live. We got Eric Lilly and the old school Cats helmet on the midweek show. That thing's sick, man. This is why you should be watching on YouTube. Also, Nick Niehaus. I'm Chuck Walter. We are going with the three-man weave today. Good stuff all around. It's Eric Lilly at Bearcat Bunch on Twitter, Nick Niehaus, and Charlie Walter, Chuck Walter, as they know me on the streets. On today's show, we're obviously still in the middle of football season. I don't know how you guys feel, but my mind has just shifted to greener pastures. I've been dreaming about the basketball season. It's here. The team looks good. They're undefeated. So, of course, we have a lot of basketball to talk about down the road, but it's football season. So we got to open up with Wait, no, there's an audible. We're not talking about a 500 team because the Cincinnati Bearcats, led by their fearless leader, Wes Miller, just hauled in a 5-star recruit, Shon Abaev. Borderline 5-star, 4-star, depending on the publication, but a big-time recruit that chose the Bearcats over Coach Calipari, over Coach Bruce Pearl. Wes Miller, fellas, has it rolling right now. Let's start with you, Lily, because you have the nuts and bolts. You're someone that, like me, back in the day was on Bearcat News, reading the rivals, the 1 through 5, the prediction meter on Bearcat News, back when we had that great content. We were the ones that were breaking the John Reek news. John Reek never played a game for Cincinnati, but Shon Abaev, the Bearcat, is this confirmed, or am I just jumping out of my ass here?
He hasn't announced yet, but you're seeing all the things you want to see, whether it's the Trilly GIF or the crystal balls from Tipton, Jamie Shaw, etc. It sure seems like it's going to happen unless something crazy happens. So great news.
Remember Travis Perry, though, a couple years ago? He kind of felt like a lock. We went on the show and we said the crystal ball's never wrong. And 2 days later, he was in Kentucky Blue.
It's still scary. I'll wait till he announces, but obviously hopes are up that we got this guy. This would be our first 5-star since Jermaine Lawrence. I know you know that name.
Yeah, I mean, the wiry athlete that could never put it all together and then went to Manhattan and averaged about 3 points there. But enough of Jermaine Lawrence. He snuck on to like 19 of these Chatterbox Bearcats shows somehow. We love the old school Cats. But let's talk about someone that, when could he announce and what would he bring to the table? Give me the details of what you've seen so far, Lily.
So it's a little weird because the early signing period ends tonight. So there's a chance that he signed today. We don't even know it, and he announces later. Obviously, it's hard to tell that right now just because nobody's said that yet, but that kind of seems like that is happening, unless he just announces while we're recording, which would be sweet. We'll keep the lookout on that, but it kind of seems like he if it's happening during the early signing period, which ends tonight, it would be today, and then we'll hear very soon afterwards, rather than waiting for months.
John Brandon will come out with a dancing Bearcat during his painting shifts. But Lily, Niehaus, let's go with you, man. I know you've seen some of these highlights from him. You're someone that is, as soon as you see a crystal ball, you know everything about the guy. What can you tell me, to our correspondent?
Well, I'm not going out on a limb. Like, he's going to be a Bearcat. Joe Tipton is the one who makes the edits for these guys, and he's the one who put in the first crystal ball. So he probably was the first to hear, and he got to work. And maybe we're just waiting on him to finish his work. Hey, Tipton, speed it up. All right, speed it up. But no, I don't want to say I'd never thought I'd see the day that we get another 5-star. Lawrence is probably our only 5-star of like the actual recruiting rankings era, right?
Lance.
Okay.
Those are the other two.
Okay. Okay. How could I forget Lance? That's crazy. Cut that out of the show. Anyway, it feels so good. And it's like Wes just keeps building and building and building and raising the bar at the recruiting aspect of his coaching game. And it seems like every new recruit we get is like, hey, this is the highest recruit in UC history. And then it's like, okay, let's give it 2 months. This is the highest recruit in UC history. All right, let's wait another few months. The bar has been raised. Wes Miller, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here because this has probably been said a million times, but gone are the days of Mick Cronin walking out of the gym when Coach Cal walks in. We just beat Coach Cal. We beat Bruce Pearl. It feels amazing. Wes Miller is a god. Let's go.
Yes, he is. I got to
back.
ask you this. I got to ask you this, though, Lily. Is there a coach in the country that is more revered than someone of Wes Miller that's never really had a losing conference record last season, has never made the NCAA tournament? We just believe. Like, this guy's bringing in players. All the puzzle pieces are there for Wes Miller to be just a sensational coach, a Roy Williams protege. Hopefully this is the one that it's coinciding with the Bearcats starting off 4-0. They're going to have a chance at Xavier here soon to get his first. You always remember your first, especially in the crosstown shootout. Mick didn't have that many, man. You got to soak them up. But it feels like everything's hitting stride at the right time for the Bearcat basketball team. Tease ahead to the football team, not so much. We'll get into that. But Wes Miller, the job that he's doing, Lily, what can you say about it, man? What can you say?
I love Wes, and it's like there's been a lot of frustrating things that have happened since he got here. And the main thing is the trajectory's been great, but it's taken a little time. Like, obviously making the tournament last year would have been awesome. It would have felt more natural, like the trajectory, which is why this year there's so much extra pressure because it feels like we have to make the tournament and win games. Last year, it's like, just get in. And if you listen to national podcasts or follow the national media, like, everyone loves Wes. They've been hyping this guy up for years. Even when UC fans were down on him, Xavier fans, et cetera, you hear a lot of crap about it. Like, he can't coach. He doesn't know the X's and O's. But, like, anytime you hear people in the industry talk about Wes, it's like glowing reviews. And to me, that means something. You don't just earn the respect of the people in your industry by being a BSer, like he lives, eats, sleeps basketball. I think he's still getting better. He's young. It's exciting. We're getting
Give me the comparison. Give me the NBA comparison that you're hearing.
Oh man. Shon Abaev. The comp I'm hearing, Danny Granger, bucket getter, creates his own shot, 3-ball, mid-range. He's taller than the guys that are guarding him. He's 6'8", 195 right now. Get an off season with that, or get a summer with Rayfelt. Maybe it's 6'8", 210. We see Betsy right now. He's huge. So he's got. The Arizona State guy on Trilly's Discord is saying that Abaev is the best scorer in the class. And if you watch the videos of his 3-ball, his shot creation in the mid-range, like, Jizzle and Day are good at getting to their spots. This guy's the same thing, except he's 6'8". And, the smooth lefty, it looks great. We all like a nice lefty shooter. And, he flashes vision. And like, the one question is, like, can he play on a team where he's not just the guy? Because this guy, he's a usage monster. Like, he's going to shoot a lot of shots. The ball's in his hands. So the one question is, like, how will he play with other players that are equal or close to his level? And we'll see. Maybe we'll see next year.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see the first Bearcats one and done since got to be Lance Stevenson, right? Even
Tyler
Tari.
Betsy.
Even Tari. Oh, since Tyler Betsy. I love that. Just put it out into the world and dreams will come true. Bearcats, let's move on from the recruiting. Let's get to the product that they actually have right now in Clifton. They took it on the road to our old stomping grounds, Northern Kentucky, and they stomped them 76-60. Although stomped may not be the right verb there because it was more like meandered their way past them. It was a titanic struggle, in the words of Marty. Niehaus, let's go with you, man. I know we got to talk to you last night, but you're someone that goes back. You watch the Sky film. You look at the sets that the Cats were running. Now that you've had a night to sleep on this thing, you feeling a little better than you did yesterday? Because you were kind of under the impression that not for a Simas Lukosius monster night, that maybe it would have been a competitive game. I think that since he really wore them down, NKU gave them their best punch that they had all season. Like they played great in the first half, and it was Cincy who, in the end, just had way too much firepower. It would have been more lopsided if there was more time on the clock because they had no more legs.
I feel better now to have a day to sleep on it, because the way we're going to win games that we've been talking about all year is wearing teams down and out physicaling that's not even a word, but being more physical than teams. But 5 minutes into the game, I was texting everyone. I'm like, I'm going to hate watch this for the next 35 minutes. Like, this is no fun at all. I know you said it last night. Like, it's a lose-lose situation on the road at NKU. But, I guess it's a cover, right? You cover the spread. You can't ask for much more than that. I do want to point out one thing. It kind of translates to what Lilly was talking about earlier when we were talking recruiting, and how everybody loves Wes Miller, excuse me. The players love Wes Miller. I mean, you have Skillings and was it Skillings and Dylan Mitchell popping into the post-game press conference. He's like, that's how you coach, like good coaching. Like they have fun. Like this team has fun, and like Wes lets them play freely. He lets them have fun. This isn't what we saw 4 years ago, where I don't even want to get into that, but the players love him. Everybody has a good time, and we're going to win games doing it. And it just seems like it's a good culture around the men's basketball team right now.
Yeah, and I like how deep the Cats are. I mean, you go back to Mick Cronin's final years there, where you were having, Trevor Moore and Diarra and some of the guys as the last men off the bench that were getting minutes. I mean, compare Tyler Betsy to Mamadou Diarra. With all due respect, it's just Betsy is a better prospect as a freshman than Diarra probably is right now at this point. Lilly, you were at the game. You had a chance to check out the atmosphere there. I know Wes Miller was fired up with the red and the black. I mean, he had tears in his eyes. He's like, you have no idea how much that means to me when you guys come to these games in the red. It's like, Wes, it's just a few miles away. There are probably a lot of Cats fans that live in Northern Kentucky. That's what we should be doing. We're a great program, and we should be going right down the road and taking over that place. You were there firsthand. Was it, 75-25? Was it 50-50? Like, how do we do traveling to that game? Because it's got to get to the point where Bearcat basketball has so much excitement to where if we do have those road games, and hopefully we never do again, like you are taking over that place. You did your part.
Yeah. I was gotten a little verbal altercations, just a couple, not too bad for a road game. Could have been worse, but I'd say 50-50. I didn't have a great view of the upper deck behind us. It might even have been more than 50-50 with UC fans. But there was in that, for either of you, if you went to games last year, there was that anxiety that you could feel in Fifth Third. You could feel it in NKU last night at the beginning. Like, NKU fans were just doing their normal stuff, and when UC scored, it was like golf claps, like nothing crazy. Like, typically away game, like when you're scoring, it's just like getting rowdy right away. Like, hey, we're here. Like, you hear us. Stuff like that was not happening. It was golf claps. And then once things started winding up a little and we made our first run there, I think we got up 7 or 8 early. And then
Chisel James, a breakaway, the dunk, right?
That kind of got everything started. And from then, NKU went on a run, and then it was like a 5-point game for how long? And anxiety. I went in confident. I was like, we're going to kill these guys. But there was some PTSD in that building from the last time around, 100% from UC fans. It was quiet, golf clapping, a couple here, like when the turnovers happened, little mistakes, you'd hear some UC fans hollering. But once we started pulling away at the end there, you could feel a change to a little more cockiness. Like, guys, we're good. We're better this time. And it's just a shame it took that long. But by the end of the game, if you take away the PTSD and like the feelings of like, are we really going to do this? Like, are we really doing this right now? Once you set that aside and see we were winning the whole game. We had the lead the whole time. And we had control. The players were fine. It's just the fans we're nervous. So it's like it was pretty fun, honestly, looking back on it. But the heart rate went up. I will say that.
Nobody. I'm sorry, Chuck. Nobody wanted to be there, right?
Oh.
And I wanted to chime in
Yeah.
because Chuck, did you see? This is your take after the game. Did you see what Wes Miller said after the game in terms of playing these types of games?
Yeah, it said they get you
not
better.
gonna
And they
happen,
absolutely do.
But he said it's not going to keep happening, though.
Yeah.
He's like, we're not playing these games anymore because
We're
analytically they're not going to make sense. But to your point, like I'm going to let you finish. Like he did mention that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go with you, man. Niehaus, Georgia Tech this weekend. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's a little Mighty Mouse, right? Damon Stoudemire went from Pacific to G Tech, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been able to watch much film on Georgia Tech yet. I'm not going to lie. All right, I'm not hitting the tape.
Seen the
Ask
tape.
Lilly about Georgia Tech. But the way we played them last year, do they have the same team? I don't even know. Like, if it's the same players, just go out, roll the ball out again. Let's beat them down again. I mean, but hey, like you mentioned with Wes after the game, the road game at NKU makes you better. I'm glad we had it before Georgia Tech because Georgia Tech's obviously better than NKU. So to have a little bit of a test on the road to kind of see what, where we stand, it's not bad. But, Wes did mention, he's like, these games aren't going to happen. We inherited this contract.
Georgia beat Georgia Tech. North Florida beat Georgia Tech. Lilly, let's ask you. I gave Niehaus his chance to be a Georgia Tech correspondent. He failed miserably.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him.
He gave me a maybe. Damon Stoudemire.
Well, no, he's kind of right though. They have their core back. It's mostly the same guys, but they did add McCollum from. We played him. Well, we played Oklahoma twice last year, but he only played in one of the games. He's a guard, bucket getter. He dropped 16 on us in fifth third, and they won the game. But he was out on the home game, which. That game at Oklahoma last year. Don't get me started on that. But
was the worst one of the year.
Yeah, they still have Kawasi Reeves. I don't know how to say
worst
it.
one of the year. We could debate that all day, but I was
could. But that was my worst one of the year. That was my worst game of the year for sure. I think
that was. That was probably the biggest meltdown of all of them. But there were a lot to choose from, man. I mean, Texas was tough. Xavier.
Oh, we could do an entire pod on this topic.
We could. Texas was tough just because that was a travel. I don't want to open up that can of worms, but whatever.
It was. Georgia Tech, though, Lilly, scared of them at all? What's their Kim Pom? Give me everything we need.
But they got a better scoring guard. Like they're better. They're on a good trajectory with Stoudemire. They got a 5-star recruit today, top 20. They were improved on Kim Pom so far from last year, but they're still not great. But they're good enough to beat it. They have talent. Like the Reeves guy from Florida, we recruited him in the portal he's a wing scorer. McCollum, Oklahoma, guard scorer. Ndongo is a sophomore. He was really good as a freshman, big man. They can beat us. And fans and players should go into this game expecting that we're not just going to beat the brakes off of them like last year. Like they just lost to their rival at home and have a week off. They have 8 days off. So they're ready for us. The one thing I will say about what Nick said with NKU's environment is I doubt Georgia Tech's environment is as good as that was. Did a little seat map check right before this. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near a sellout. I don't think their fans are too crazy, but
no. Gone are the days of Chris Bosch, Luke Schencher, Jarrett Jack. I know. What's his face? And the COVID mask, Josh Pastner had a random ass run to the NCAA tournament. Him and Ewing, it was like the same year where it was just like they saved themselves like a year or two by making some crazy run. But I couldn't tell you one player really that's come through Georgia Tech since, the redhead Luke Schencher and Bosch were running down the floor. So beat their ass. Let's just come on. This is the type of team 01-02. 02-03, like Steve Logan's teams, all these really good Bearcats teams, they would get the Wake Forest in the non-conference. They would get the Oklahoma States in the non-conference. They would get Oregon in the non-conference, and they would do what they needed to do. And quite frankly, Mick Cronin's teams did that too. Wes Miller, And I mean, even Brandon took down Tennessee one year. Wes Miller's been that coach that has struggled with the high major out of conference teams for the most part. And even, I guess, the low major, if you're considering Dayton. But this is one that I would hope Lilly's completely wrong and the Bearcats come out and just throttle 11, 14 points, something like that.
Chuck,
Control.
if I may, this is why I love Lilly, because his preparation is checking the seat map of Georgia Tech. I mean,
it
follow
matters.
this man on Twitter, because I'm telling you, you're not going to get this sort of stuff from anybody else. I roll the ball out and hook up the mic and let it rock. Like, I'm looking at Ken Palm. This is my preparation right here. Here's Ken Palm. You want to hear the teams? We got St. Joseph's, McNeese, Bradley, Georgia Tech, Arkansas State. Now, I'm not somebody who just sees a mid-major and is like, all right, this team's garbage. But those are the surrounding teams around Georgia Tech. UC is top 11 in Ken Palm. Like you said, Chuck, you go to this and you take care of business. This is a TCB, taking care of business game. But is it going to be like that? Still a road game, still tough.
Yeah, road games have been brutal. And Rodal football games too. Those have been tough, man. Iowa State, the last that the Bearcats played as we transition to the gridiron. This is where I'm kind of at in the season with football. There's just so much excitement surrounding the basketball team that we're at the most important juncture of the season, really. Bearcats are still fighting for their postseason lives. They're still fighting for an over on the 5.5 wins, which is, considered, at least to the general public and the voters before the season, it's considered a successful season, a step in the right direction for Scott Satterfield. And I don't believe anymore. We'll start with you, Lilly. I don't know if you do, but Iowa State, it felt like Iowa State last year, where that homecoming game, the Cyclones really took the wind out of the sails, and it was just like, this isn't working. We kind of suck. Do you feel any different? Do you feel like the 10-point Kansas State spread is something Bearcats fans should dabble with, or is this just who we are right now and that is not good enough?
I'm so torn with this team because I know they're better than last year. Like it's to me, it's obvious. I've seen some people debating it. I don't see it at all. Like, we're better, but what, 60 yards passing? Like, come on.
It's 66.
66 yards passing.
Give him his respect.
And it was all on the first drive probably, but we've seen these, like Kansas State lost to Houston 2 weeks ago. Like, you're telling me I shouldn't think we can win this game? Like, I'm not buying it. Like, there's reasons to be optimistic. And while I think last year makes it natural for UC fans to be like, we're losing these next two games, we're going to be 5-7. I think it's not equal, obviously, because Kansas State is better than us, but I think there's a chance that we win both. I'm a natural optimist, Chuck.
The Iowa State game,
it
was skewed, right? It was skewed. That final score was not 34-17.
It wasn't. And I was at a wedding and I watched the condensed game after, and I see why people were freaking out because, we took the lead again, didn't control the game. We talked last week about how Iowa State has a bad run defense. We ran all over them and had 14 points to show for it. But we need to rediscover these like fine margins of like the red zone stuff with Royer versus Miami and some other, early in the season. We need to, like, Xavier Henderson had like 140 yards versus Texas Tech. And I don't have it right in front of me. I did the math a couple of days ago, but he's had like 170 yards since. Like 140 in one game, and 5 games since he's at 170. Or it could be way up, but the point is,
he hasn't done anything. That's the point.
We don't like Royer, Henderson, Henderson, Sorsby. Something's off. Like, we need to, and it doesn't mean it's going to be off these last 2 games. There's a chance here where we figure it out. Kansas State doesn't necessarily have a great pass defense. So I'm going to be an optimist. I'm not saying we're going to beat Kansas State, but I think we're going to find a way to 6 wins here.
And this is a shout out to all the Colorado fans that subscribed and were big fans of the podcast after the Buffs game and said, we'll be back here for the Kansas State game. Sorry that our football team lost enough and the Bearcats basketball team has won enough to the point where this is now the C block. And we're talking about a 5-star recruit in the opening block, but that's where priorities are at, man. That is where priorities are at. Niehaus, Dr. Niehaus, please tell me that I am not wrong here.
No.
And my brain naturally just shifting to basketball season. I mean, I'm a 90s kid. It's a little different, like I feel like if you went to UC during a time where UC football was dominant, maybe your fandom shifted. But if you're from Cincinnati and grew up a basketball fan in the 90s and even had season tickets for football like I did, it's tough to, get over the fact that UC basketball is my bread and butter, man. Tell me I'm wrong saying that.
No, you're not wrong. And Lily's being the optimist. I don't even want to state my opinion on this football game because I don't
even want to watch the game. The only reason I'm doing
I don't want to get clipped and then everybody's like, oh, this dude's just negative about the football team because
you're not the only one, buddy.
Yeah,
I can promise you that. There's someone listening to the car right now. Speak your mind, Niehaus.
No, I mean,
that's why we love Chatterbox Bearcats. We're not shills, baby.
There's no way they're winning this game. I mean, here's my football take. Win against TCU so we can get a bowl game and I can have a fun weekend out of it and go on a fun trip and I don't know, just
Birmingham.
Get 9 practices, right? Is that what you said? I mean, hey,
yeah.
Anywhere
playing for
Birmingham.
practices.
Yeah.
Anywhere
we could run it back with Vandy. No, Vandy's actually good. We're not getting Vandy.
Yeah. So no, it's a 9-point spread. Will I be taking Cincinnati +9? The answer is no. I mean, maybe I'll take our team total just to have some juice on the game, but I do not feel good about it. I have completely shifted to hoop season because we're top 10 and we just got a 5-star recruit. It's tough. It's tough. Like you said, growing up. Now, when I was growing up, I had Tony Pike, Marty Gilliard, and Isaiah Pede. So I had a good I didn't have the rough teams of before. And this sucks. It sucks that we're just fighting for 6 wins. There's no other way to put it.
What sucks to me is that I don't believe. I want to believe in Scott Satterfield, and I'm not gonna. There's no point in just coming on here and ragging on the guy because at the end of the day, the athletic department's not listening to me. They're not listening to Chatterbox Bearcats. If you are, get him out of here. Get him now. I mean, Lily, give me something to be excited about because it just seems like we're seeing a reoccurring theme. I even heard this about Satterfield before he got to UC from Louisville fans. They called him Shitterfield. They have been saying this for years that this is what Satterfield teams do. They get worse as the season goes on. They get worse as game goes on. Their game management is at times very poor. I mean, this is a team that can't run a 2-minute drill if they tried. Remember against Colorado, we're running the ball all over the place late. Just some of the things we do doesn't make us seem like a well-coached football team. I think he's done all right in the portal. I mean, some of his skill guys going out and getting Florida Atlantic receivers, even though some of our best receivers lately have been the ones from, Florida Atlantic and whatever it may be. I mean, where the hell is Sterling Burkhalter? I haven't heard his name in 8 weeks. I mean, Lily, give it to me straight. You're the optimist. Why at this point in the season should Bearcats feel that they're going bowling and that this thing isn't just a dumpster fire that we're kind of waiting until the end on?
Well, first of all, the main point for optimism is you should never, ever listen to a Louisville fan. Never.
Look at their basketball program the last few years. They get
unless they're talking about college baseball. And so this is my thing with Satterfield.
Italian restaurants.
And I know I'm in a minority here, but when we hired him, I'm not saying it was a good hire. I actually think the hiring period was awful. If you go back and look at the coaches that were hired that year, it's Dion, Satterfield, and then Key, the guy at Georgia Tech. And there's some mid-major guys. Golesh went to USF. We don't know if he's good yet. He's doing a long-term rebuild there. I kind of wanted Golesh personally. And Sean Lewis, who went to Colorado and kind of got fired, but now he's the head coach of San Diego State. So it was a bad year to have an opening. Shout out Fickle for just bailing. So I kind of get it why we hired a guy that had experience going up a level. He knows how to run a program. And the Louisville thing is there's another aspect that doesn't get talked about much in UC spaces is that Louisville was a disaster. They didn't have a president. They didn't have an AD.
Petrino left him for dead.
Yeah, Satterfield, and I will say this, Satterfield messed up. He got caught interviewing at South Carolina. Any support he had after that was gone. Once he got caught shopping around, gone. So he didn't have like support off the field. He wasn't getting NIL. He wasn't getting, and I know NIL wasn't a thing for part of his regime there, but like he wasn't getting that support off the field. When he came here, we have a GM. We have an off the field staff. We hired guys from Ohio State. These guys know how to scout. We're getting like our transfer portal pools have been pretty solid. And, you know, we see these 3-star recruits we're getting that are flipping to freaking blue bloods. So I defend coaches a little. I like to give them 3 years. I'm giving Satterfield 3 years personally. I get why people are frustrated, but number one, we're not firing him. Like, it's the way I look at it is it's not going to happen. So let's not talk about it. Like, I know people like to get it out of their system, right? But
unless he tells someone to go to hell and get a job, I think at that point
that's the thing. Exactly. Like
that would never happen, right? That would never happen.
No, he's too nice a guy. He's a good. I mean, he's a good leader of men, right?
He's a pro.
Yeah, he's just he's bland. I mean, he definitely goes to UDF and gets vanilla. His wife's like, you're not gonna get Blue Moo cookie dough, Scott. You were a Blue Moo cookie dough guy for decades. He's like, no, vanilla.
That's an insult. Lily, I'm cutting you off, but I just bought myself back into this. All right, I did, because I'm looking at Kansas State's schedule, and they lost to Houston, they lost to Arizona State, and now they have Cincinnati. And I'm looking at your notes. Shout out to you. 5th worst in the Big 12 in pass defense. I'm buying back in. Sorsby's going to cook. All right. Just because I have to, because I'm watching the game and I'm doing the live post game show. So I have to go in positive. I don't have a choice.
And the rush defense is like elite. So like they want you to throw. I mean, if we're going to get out of this passing thing that hasn't happened since Texas Tech, Saturday's the day. Like vibes are horrible in Manhattan. They're complaining about it being a night game. Like what?
We die for that.
Yeah. They've said they've had 4 night games. It's like, what? That would be nice. Congrats, guys. But like, we're going to go in there. We're going to throw. The issue is Kansas State is very, like, they're probably the best team in the Big 12, despite some of the stuff that's happened. They can they protect their quarterback. They sack the other quarterback, which is something to watch on Saturday. If we can protect Sorsby, I actually feel like we can pull it off. But that's the one thing. We got to protect him, and then I need 250 plus out of Brendan.
Yeah, we need a big game from Sorsby. Need him to clean up the turnovers.
Maybe Sterling Burkhalter. I don't know.
Yeah. Dude, it was through the first 8 games of the season, Sorsby had 4 total turnovers. During the last 2 games, has accumulated 4 total turnovers. So we're about to see what he's made of, man. I mean, we assume that he's the quarterback of the future, but in today's NIL world where you can just go out and bring a new one in, if he's not the right guy or if he, doesn't finish out the season well, he could look to go elsewhere. Like it's a very fickle world, not a Luke Fickell world based on how Wisconsin's doing, but it's a fickle world in college football. So it's you find your guy, and there's no more, developing a quarterback 4 years unless you're Arch Manning. You can pretty much go out and find a new guy every year if you don't have the right guy. And I think most of Bearcat Nation think that Sorsby's the guy. He's shown us enough early in the season. But another dud would not help the morale heading into that last home game against TCU. Final thoughts, anything that's burning on your guys' minds? Or is that a show and we will see you after Georgia Tech on Saturday, a little doubleheader? We got Houdini and Niehaus on the sticks for the football game, and then I'm going to do the basketball game early in the day with Houdini. So anyways, hop on Venmo and send Houdini about $5 because he's working hard, man. He's the hardest working unpaid intern on that side of the Ohio River.
My last thought is I'm just excited for Abaev. I really am. I think he's a stud. He looks like, and I texted you guys this, he looks like Dan Skillings if Skillings had a little more control and had a stroke from 3. Now we're hoping Skilling's. I mean, look, he only played one game, so he might have improved that in the offseason. We don't know that yet. But this Abaev guy, you can tell how he's a 5-star. He had 37 points in his season debut in the Overtime Elite. This guy's a scorer, and I am so pumped to have him.
Lily, anything for the road?
Yeah, I'm going back to football. This isn't just a basketball show. We got 2 more games, maybe 3. Also, maybe a bunch more practices if we get one more win here. I want to get the guys on the practice field. Cincinnati scored 24 or more points the first 5 weeks of the season, every single week. The last 5 weeks since the Texas Tech game, we have not scored 24 points. So Kansas State, I want to win the game, but we got to score. Like it's getting to the point of ridiculousness. We got to get some points on the board. We can't just cruise into Texas Christian and be like, that's who we're going to beat. We got to look good versus Kansas State, even if we lose, to kind of sell it to the players and fans that this TCU game, it's a big game. We can win it, et cetera. We have to switch the trajectory here because it's been going like this.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing is you clean things up for just a 90 second of not even game time, just like real time, like 2 plays from every game. West Virginia. I mean, Colorado is one that I think 10 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10, we're probably losing in Colorado. That's a damn good team. But even Iowa State to a certain extent, definitely Pittsburgh, definitely Texas Tech. Like, this is a team that's fought hard and could have won a lot of these games. So it's the catch-22. It's like, we're clearly decent. I just don't believe in the coaches to go out and get the job done when it's all said and done, because it seems like the same story as last year. But the other side of the catch-22 is I think we're decent. We're hanging around in all these games. So that's a positive. How about a Jake Golday punch out? It's been a minute since one of those. That's my hot take. We're going to force a fumble. Bearcats are going to go on the road to Manhattan. And what else am I going to say? Yeah. They're going to win, folks. They're going to win. I think we're going to win every game, basketball or football.
Prove that you're decent.
Prove that you're decent. That's the moral of the season and the storyline of Saturday's game against Kansas State. Prove that you're decent. The Bearcats have proved that they are good on the basketball floor. How do they fare against their first high major program? Yeah, ACC, high major program, Georgia Tech on Saturday. We will have the breakdown and see you after those games on Saturday, YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcasts. We see the numbers rising, folks. And if you're new to the show, we love you. Leave a 5-star review. Tell us you love the show. Leave your favorite Bearcats basketball or football player, the most random one you have. I'll start it off. Abdul Herrera. I'll leave him, and you could take it. Jamari Strickland. Take it from there. Leave it in the chat. It helps pump this thing out to Bearcats fans, and we appreciate it, man. We're just on the ground floor. Wes Miller really can help out the show here with a big-time season. Scott, we're looking at you. Pick it up, fellas. See ya.